Okay, everybody, I'll give it a 30-second warning and we'll get started with this meeting. Okay, everybody, if I can have you take your seats, please. We'll get this meeting started. Good evening, everyone. I will go ahead and call to order the meeting for the Gilbert Town Council for March 29th, 2022. We would like to first have a presentation of Student Citizen of the Month by our Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. It's my pleasure to announce the names of the Gilbert Student Citizens of the Month. The recipients were nominated by their teachers and principals for demonstrating good citizenship and character. We appreciate the opportunity to not only recognize these hardworking students, but to also thank all the teachers and school administrators in the community. We appreciate all your efforts to educate and influence our young residents. Our students are some of Gilbert's greatest assets. At this time, we're going to begin our Student Citizen of the Month presentation. Please enjoy. For those of you who are receiving an award tonight, a certificate and packet will be sent to you to your school. And we'll begin with our elementary schools. From Bridges Elementary, Bailey Torgerson. From Burke Elementary, Eli Giaconelli. From Carroll Ray Ranch Elementary, Caitlin Anderson. From Centennial Elementary School, Jane Carling. From Chaparral Elementary, Charlie Cintas. From Christ Greenfield Lutheran School, Jessica Jeremiah. From Mesquite Elementary, Millie Thatcher. From Neely Traditional Academy, Juliana Griffin. From Oak Tree Elementary, Massimo Ponza. From Pioneer Elementary, Cameron Justice. From Riggs Elementary, Tatum Chavez. From Santan Elementary, Ava Tinti. From Settlers Point Elementary, Mila Provincio. From Spectrum Elementary, Nevaeh Carleal. From Town Meadows Elementary, Leo Willis. Congratulations to all those students. For our middle school and high school recipients, we have from Campo Verde High School, Arwin Griggs. From Canyon Valley High School, Samuel Joseph Perez. From Cooley Middle School, Sophia Schmoll. From Gilbert Classical Academy, Raghav Bhargava. From Greenfield Junior High, Bridget Hansen. From Higley High School, Mateus White. From Mesquite High School, Brian Clark. From Mesquite Junior High, Santino Hernandez. From Payne Junior High, Swathibindu Kunta. And from Perry High School, Caitlin Haney. We thank you and congratulations to all the student citizens. Keep up the great work. You're making Gilbert proud.
We sure do miss having the kids here in the chamber, but boy, that goes fast. Wow. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for sharing that with us. And first we will have Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Kathy Tilkey.
Please stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the United States.
Next, leading our invocation will be Councilmember Anderson.
Our Father in heaven, we are indeed grateful, Father, for this opportunity we have to be gathered together this evening. Gathered together as friends and neighbors where we can reason with one another, where we can present ideas and opinions and do it in a free manner. We're thankful for that opportunity. We're thankful for the service that is rendered in this community. There is a great influence of Thy Spirit here, which influences everyone in serving one another and doing what is right to help one another. We are very mindful this evening, Father, of those who are in need of comfort and thy strength in lands removed from here, over in Eastern Europe and in Ukraine. We pray that thou will bless them, that they might be comforted, that the war will soon be ended, that peace will be again rendered throughout that portion of the world. We are thankful, Father, again for this opportunity to be together this evening, and pray again for thy Spirit to help us and guide us as we need it in rendering service. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Anderson. Thank you for remembering the folks over in the Ukraine at this moment. Next, I will ask the clerk to perform the roll call.
Mayor Bridget Peterson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Amy Yenthes.
Here.
Councilmember Scott Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Lauren Hendricks.
Present.
Councilmember Jan Kaprowski.
Here.
Councilmember Scott September.
Here.
And Councilmember Kathy Tilkey.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you so much, Chevelli. Now we move into presentations and proclamations. First, we have a proclamation declaring week of April 2nd through 8th as National Association for the Education of Young Children Week, and that will be presented by Councilmember Kaprowski.
Thank you. I would like to invite Vice Chair Davis Crummy, representing First Things First, Southeast Maricopa Regional Partnership Council, down to the front. Good evening.
Good evening.
It's my honor on behalf of Mayor Bridget Peterson and the town of Gilbert, whereas all young children deserve quality early learning environments that support them as capable and competent lifelong learners, and whereas nurturing, parenting, quality and accessible childcare and early education programs build strong brains during the critical years from birth to age 5, and whereas investments in babies and young children has profound impacts on creating a strong and vibrant community, and whereas First Things First, Arizona Association for the Education of Young Children and other community organizations, in conjunction with the National Association for the Education of Young Children, are celebrating the 51st anniversary of the Week of the Young Child. And whereas these organizations are working to improve equitable early learning opportunities that can provide a foundation of learning for children in Gilbert, and whereas early childhood educators and others who make a difference in the lives of young children deserve thanks, recognition, and support, and whereas public policies that support early learning for all young children are crucial to Arizona's families, communities, and economy, I, Councilmember Jan Kaprowski, on behalf of Mayor Bridget Peterson, do hereby proclaim April 2nd through 8th, 2022 as Week of the Young Child in Gilbert, Arizona, and encourage all citizens to support and invest in early childhood education in our community. Davis, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you. I wrote them down. I was trying to be green. Thank you, Mayor and honorable council members. We appreciate your vision, passion, and dedication to the more than 22,000 of Gilbert's young children. My name is David Crummy. I'm the regional vice chair of the Regional Council for First Things First in Southeast Maricopa. Arizonans created First Things First to help more kids arrive at kindergarten ready to succeed. As Arizona's early childhood agency, First Things First is the only state agency funding source dedicated exclusively to the beginning of the educational continuum and the very foundation of our region's economic development and human capacity. First Things First invests early childhood educations in programs and services that address the development, education, and health needs of children from birth to 5. This nationally recognized week, the Week of the Young Child, lands on April 2nd through 8th. This is a time when we can reach out in our communities to help young children, and you can do that in a number of ways, such as supporting early literacy initiatives, thanking teachers who educate and nurture our children, and work towards public policies that benefit all of our young children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
Before I introduce this next group that I'm going to present to, I wanted to point out the members of my Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee that are here tonight for this meeting. If you'd like to please stand, ladies. Thanks for being here at the council meeting tonight. Saw all your faces back there smiling at me, so I wanted to recognize you. Thanks. Now, Renee, you might want to move out of the way because I am going to ask these ladies to come down and join me. We have the 2021-2022 Perry Varsity Cheerleading team, the Perry Pumas. These ladies, their head coach, Desiree Hogue, and assistant coach, Nikki Libby, are both Gilbert residents. And these ladies, consisting of 11 seniors, 6 juniors, and 1 freshman, are arguably the most talented and successful team to pass through Perry High School and one of the most talented teams in the state to date. With many veteran athletes who have put in years of work with the program, these athletes saw their dreams come to light this season. We're gonna have to squeeze in to get a photo. Yeah, I already know that. There's a lot of them. The Pumas won AIA state championships this season, one for their game day routine, and a second just a couple weeks ago for their D1 show cheer routine. These wins left them on cloud 9, I can imagine. I watched your routines, they were amazing. Additionally, the team maintained a prestigious record at each event they attended this year, earning multiple trophies and banners, as you can see, along the way. Of their various successes this season, their nationals trip to Orlando, Florida has to be one of the most memorable. I would have given anything to go to Florida when I was a cheerleader to compete. The Pumas headed to the National High School Cheerleading Championship, the only NFSH accredited high school cheerleading nationals, in early February in the largest division the competition has ever seen. After a long weekend, the Pumas made a name for themselves amongst the best of the best in the country. To start, they were the only Arizona team to make it to finals in both their traditional routine and their game day routine. They performed 6 times and hit every single routine, something no other team from our state has done. They also became the first varsity team from Arizona to medal when they earned 3rd place out of 32 in their game day division. Even more impressive, however, might be their 4th place finish in the small varsity Division I category, a category which started on day 1 with 108 teams total in the division that Pumas had to battle against. At just their 2nd ever NHSCC showing, the Perry Varsity Cheerleading team left their mark and made the state of Arizona and the town of Gilbert extremely proud. Thank you for coming out tonight, ladies. We wanted to recognize you. As you can tell, I was a cheerleader a very long time ago. Cheerleading has changed a lot and come a very long way. You should all be so proud of your accomplishments. Okay, yeah. Want to hold it in the front? There we go. Yeah, of course I. Congratulations again, ladies. Thanks for making us proud. Keep up the great work.
Mayor,
treasure those trophies.
Mayor,
yes.
I think their boys basketball team just won the state championship.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I was at Perry High School not too long ago, and we dedicated the gym to Mr. Dan Serrano also, so Perry's got a lot to be proud of this year.
Mayor, Vice Mayor Yentes wanted us to do a council member pyramid in honor of this event.
As long as I wasn't on the bottom.
I could pop you. That was a long time ago. I think once a cheerleader, always a cheerleader, and then I was able to coach Pop Warner cheerleading for years after graduating high school, so it's been a love and a passion of mine. Next, thank you, and thank you to Julie Graham for bringing this to my attention, because I think it's important to recognize these great athletes when they're able to do these things in our community. And I had never been out to Perry High School, and so that was my first visit when I went to do the Dan Serrano gym dedication, and now it's nice to be able to have you here. And sometimes we get overwhelmed with everything else that's going on in our community, and to be able to just take a moment to enjoy something just fun and good, and something that you guys are I promise you, will remember for your entire lives. So congratulations. Next, we'll move on to communications from citizens. Vice Mayor?
Yes, the Gilbert Town Council values citizens' comments and input. Anybody wishing to speak before the council must fill out one of these request to speak cards for the item they wish to speak on and submit to the town clerk, or place it in the bin provided at the beginning of the meeting. The communications from citizens portion of the agenda provides citizens an opportunity to identify for the town council matters of interest or concern related to town government that are not printed on the agenda. Under the provisions of Arizona open meeting law, the town council is prohibited from responding to issues that have not been properly noticed. Therefore, the town council may only listen to citizens who wish to address them on non-agenda items. We regret that we cannot respond beyond thanking you for your comments. We ask when we call your name that you come to the podium, that you state your name, place of residence, and then you can begin speaking. And I think we'll have 3 minutes. There are only 2 individuals who filled out cards. So the first person, Karen Tordis. I hope I got that right. Karen's here. We'll go to our second speaker, Paul Kalb. You're here. Thank you, sir. You'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. Hello, Mayor Peterson and council. Members, my name is Paul Kalp. I'm a Gilbert father and family. My family lives here in Gilbert, live right behind the Perry High School. I'm a captain at Southwest Airlines, and I'm also the owner of a not-for-profit company called STEM Plus C. At STEM Plus C, I specifically work with kids in developing interest in aviation, aeronautics, and aerospace, a subject that doesn't get those subjects don't get much attention in our school system. So I help provide to get kids introduced to that subject material. By the way, I've worked with kids from Perry High School many times. With that said, I have an event coming up, which I think some of the council members are aware of, April 9th at the Gilbert Gilbert Regional Park. The event is called Taking Flight. I would invite all of you to come out at least for an hour or so during the day, just to see what the event is all about. This is a very unique event. There's people in Washington that are familiar with what I'm doing, and eyes are going to be on this, from the FAA level to several other organizations and the DOD, because I'm the only guy in the United States that's doing this kind of a program. So come on out, April 9th, catch a glimpse of what we do at STEM Plus C. It is a hands-on day. It's not a day to come out and watch how great Paul Culp flies his RC airplane. It's a day to bring your kids out. We're going to teach them how to fly RC airplane. We'll teach them how to fly multi-rotor. We'll, they're going to get exposure to Embry-Riddle, ASU, Chandler and Gilbert Community College. So that's taking flight. The other thing I want to plant the seed tonight, one of the things we saw earlier in the slide was be the city of the future. I want to plant the seed tonight for a public-private partnership with the town of Gilbert. What I'm looking for is to establish the first STEM Plus C Learning Center here in the town of Gilbert, along with the Learning Center, which our business plan calls for about a 4,000 to 6,000 square foot learning facility, in addition to enough space to do aeronautics, aerospace, and aviation-related projects, which is a rarity in big city communities. And Gilbert Regional Park happens to have enough space that I think we might be able to work out a public private relationship. Anyway, that's all I got. I gave you guys some information to look over. If you have any questions, I'm no stranger. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'll just give one more opportunity for Karen Tornice if she's in the audience. Otherwise, we'll close our communications from citizens and move to the consent agenda. So I think I have a number of items pulled on the agenda, items 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 20, 21, 25, 32, and 33. Were there any other items that any other council members wish to pull that I did not mention?
You said that kind of fast. Could you run down those numbers again?
Try to keep up, Councilman September. 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 20, 21, 25, 32, and 33.
Thank you.
I was not in chair. I was in speech and debate. So we learned to speak very, very quickly, sir. If there aren't any other items, we'll go ahead and move up 46, 47, and 48 if there are no objections to those items moving forward on consent. And then we'll make those motions, and then we'll move to approve all the items at once that have not been pulled. So, Councilmember Tilke, would you like to make the motion on 40?
47 and 48?
Yep.
Okay. For item 47, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Adam Baugh to Redevelopment Commission as a regular member with a partial term beginning March 29, 2022 and ending October 31st, 2025. And on item 48, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Constance Lemire to the Self-Insured Trust Board as a regular member with a partial term beginning March 29, 2022 and ending September 30, 2023.
And then on item 46, a motion to appoint to the Parks and Recreation Whitney Pitt as a regular member with a partial term beginning March 29th, 2022, ending May 12th, 2023. And did I mix those up? And Florence, what was her last name? Daniels, thank you. As a regular member with a partial term beginning March 29th, 2022 and ending May 12th, 2024. Along with those motions, 46, 47, 48, also move to approve 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, 22, 23, 24, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31, 34, 35, 36, and 37. A second.
Second.
Excuse me, Councilmember, Vice Mayor Yentes. Item 13 was actually removed.
Oh, correct. Sorry.
You could just exclude that from the motion.
Yes, excluding item 13, which was pulled from the agenda. Thanks. Now, can we get another second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. All right, so the first item, first few items, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I think I saw Chief here. Oh, thank you, Chief. I just wanted to kind of do a touch point on these. I know we've approved some of these IGAs on previous agendas, and just wanted a little bit of clarity because I know at least on the, I can wait for you to get down here. Are you listening? You're multitasking. That's excellent. At least on the, I know the Tolleson, the ASU, the Avondale, these ones don't have fee schedules attached. Yavapai County does. So I just didn't know if at some point we were going to get maybe an update on kind of, as far as, when we're renting out these facilities to other agencies, what's that covering as far as O&M for us? And obviously there's, wear and tear on the building, and I just didn't know if there was continuity in what we were charging these different agencies, because the fee schedules are dealt with in, I guess, different MOUs.
Yes, Mayor and Vice Mayor. All the IGAs, there's I think 5 on tonight's agenda. You approved a couple already, and we have a couple more coming. The IGA is a intergovernmental agreement between us and the other agencies to cover both sides for training. It doesn't specify specific training or a cost. We do have our public safety training fees, facility fees, which incorporates in if there's a rental. And so those fees have been established. You will be seeing in about 60 days an adjustment to that, which we'll explain at that time. But these IGAs are not specific to any specific training. It's just a general broad of liability waivers and an agreement to for us to attend training at their facilities if need be, and for them to attend training at our facilities. So it's just very general. There are no specific fees at all. If there are fees, that would be on the individual classes, and that's something that would be handled either through the contracts or if it is an IGA or an MOU that you guys would see. So all of these that you're seeing and the ones you'll see in the next couple of months are covering us. Part of it, the ones you're seeing now are all the ones attending the academy. It allows us to establish that so that if there's any future seats in the academy, we have an agreement as to the liability protection for us and them, establishes that, and then we have a separate MOU that handles the specifics of the fees charged for that class for the academy, or if it's some other type of class.
So will there be kind of a touch point in the future on what we're charging as far as fee schedules? I know these IGAs lapse after 5 years, but then they're automatically renewed. So I just didn't know if there was an opportunity to revisit prior to maybe a 5-year.
Mayor and Vice Mayor, back in October, I believe it was when you approved the fee schedule. And that will be coming back before you, I believe, the first session in May, because there's some adjustment based on some state funding. So that's specific just to the facility and to the academies and some of the materials to provide that. Ones that are, say if we're hosting an HGN class or a paramedic school, those are outside. The training IGA allows us to do that, but if there's a specific cost, then that's when you would see that coming before you if need be, if it's outside the scope of the IGA.
And then last question, I also saw in there that whoever is host, if we're using their facilities, or that the curriculum or the training is based, is predominant to what the host agency. So I just didn't know, because I don't think that we're typically using other people's facilities. It's probably, more the other way around, but.
It covers us both ways in case there is an agreement. Most of we had prior agreements with a lot of agencies. Some of those agreements are 10, 15 years old. And so this covers us with the new facility, but it does cover us both ways. There may be an occasion where we need to go to Mesa or out to Glendale to Gripstick or down to Siletzi in Tucson. And so there's different opportunities for us to attend training. So it just covers us as the police department as a whole. And this is just PD's IGAs. It covers us if they come here or if we go there.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
With that, I'll move to approve items 5, 6, 7, and 8.
I'll second.
All in favor? Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Item 6, I believe Councilmember Kaprowski pulled this item.
16?
Yes, 16. I said 6, didn't I? 16.
For item 16.
Try to keep up.
Touche.
Regarding construction of storm drain and splash pad improvements for Gilbert Regional Park, I just wanted to get a staff update with a little bit more background for the project and the necessity, and whether this was related to new facilities at the park or current facilities. Thank you.
Start having staff sit closer to the front.
We were just saying it's a very long walk down to the podium here in this building. It would be nice to get back in our old chamber eventually.
Next time I won't sit in the back 40. Councilman Kaprowski, Mayor, Town Council. So the improvements that we're doing there, we've had some ponding issues south of the volleyball courts in that retention area, and also down by the amphitheater. All the slopes are carrying the water down, and we're getting a lot of pooling. I don't know if you've been to an event out there, and sometimes a little wet. So we're adding these drainage ditches to take water away from there, so we can, and putting in some dry wells. The splash pad, we've had an ongoing issue with one of the emitters, the large kind of walk-through hoops that the kids go through. We've tried everything to keep the water out of the turf area there by the palm trees. It seems to be flowing that way. We've done multiple things. We're worried about it killing the palm trees, so we're going to put a curb in along there, take some of the concrete out, put a curb in along there, and keep the water from going in that area.
Thank you, Rick. During the construction process, do you have any thoughts at this time about the restrictions to the park use?
There will be, and it's not going to happen right away, obviously. The splash pad update, we're going to have to wait until probably November when we shut the splash pad down. Same thing with the, we're going to schedule with the parks crew, the events crew, to make sure that when we do the amphitheater work, that we won't have any events scheduled. The other area by the volleyball, it's down in the drainage, so we should be able to take care of that relatively soon, but the other ones we'll have to schedule with Parks Events team.
Thank you for that background information. I don't have any further comments or questions.
Any other questions from any council members?
Yeah, I have one question. So when these amenities were designed and the park was designed, there's grading and drainage plans that are prepared, reviewed, stamped. Was there a defect in those grading and drainage plans that would cause the puddling that we're experiencing now, or is there some other thing that's causing this?
Thank you, Councilman September and Mayor and Town Council. So we did obviously the drainage and grading plans, and we had a percolation test on the soils, but it's not performing as we thought it would. It's holding the water, and the actual grade, obviously of the amphitheater, if you notice the lawn, all 10 acres kind of goes right down toward the amphitheater. So the water isn't soaking in as much as we thought it would with the percolation, but it's actually ponding down at the end. So it's capturing it down there. The grass looks nice and green down there, but it's also wet. So those are the issues that we found. And in the next phase, we'll look more into that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve item 16.
I'll second.
Please vote. Motion carries. Item 20. This item has popped up on our agenda more than once, and was an item one of our former council members was critical of as being perhaps overbuilt more than it needed to meet the basic ADA requirements. My concern with this item is that this particular increase in the contract amount is like a 48% increase. So I don't know if there's anybody who wants to speak to that, but otherwise welcome back.
All right.
Maybe you should just stay here.
Yeah, I didn't go far. So Councilman Yentis, Mayor, Town Council, when we initially went out for the contract, it was a low bid contract, and we found that our funds weren't sufficient to do the entire area that we were trying to do, which is south of the railroad tracks, west of Gilbert Road, north of Elliott, Lacey Track neighborhood. We could only do roughly half of the work in there for what we got for low bid. Recently, another project kind of fell through. We were able to switch the funds over there, and now we want to go to a phase 2 of construction to get that entire area done before we move on to any other areas downtown.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm not getting it. So we bid it out. We got a bid. We had a scope of work. We bid it out. And I guess my question is, why couldn't we get that scope completed for the bid that we received?
Well, we bid it out. It came back. None of the bids were within our budget, so we had to cancel the bid. We had to move the package down, not have the entire area. We only had a few, about half of the area, that we went back out and rebid.
For the balance of the scope that couldn't be done.
Right, for the stuff that could be done, we did that first with the budget we had. Then when we got more budget, we were able to do a change order, which we're trying to do tonight, and to expand to do the entire scope.
Okay, so that's what we're seeing tonight is the second half that couldn't be completed before.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please vote. Item carries 5-2. Item 21, I pulled this item. I understand there needs to be some renovation down by the water tower plaza, and that includes maybe demolishing the current restroom and building a new one. I had some questions on the particular job contract on this one. I was curious, and I'm not an expert in this field, but my understanding is this $91,000 takes us to submittal of plans, drawings, does not get us a 600 to 800 square foot bathroom, and my concern is that seems like an exorbitant amount of money for a 600 to 800 square foot bathroom. And
yeah, that's the architecture. I'm sorry.
Please, yeah.
Councilman Yentis and Mayor and Town Council. So with the Ash Street realignment, which is a different project, that will take out the GO spot that's down there right now. It's the restroom at the Park and Ride. So looking forward, and we decided, because the splash pad needs a restroom within X number of feet in order to be permitted by the county. So we decided to move it into this project. So we didn't have that lag of time when it went away and we'd have to build another one. The architect fees for that, that's what they work out to once we got the proposal. I can't speak on, the 91K for that, but that's typical for what we're seeing for design of something like that.
I hope this is a really nice bathroom. Are there any additional questions?
Do you know whether the restroom has HVAC?
It should be just like the one that's down there now, which I don't think the areas will have. The restroom itself will have an HVAC, but this will have a IDF room in there, so we can now put the equipment for the water tower lights and the park pumps and all that in this air-conditioned unit in the side of the bathroom. So it'll be hooked up to the town fiber, and we can communicate with it remotely.
So it has a control room attached to it?
Yes, so this is just for the engineering. This is just for the drawings of the bathroom, $91,000?
Correct.
I think it identifies where, lines get connected as well.
Oh, so there's utility connection coordination and
obviously, yeah, not only the building itself, but then the utility lines that go into it, the sewage, the water.
Power, water, sewer, thank you.
Also some charrettes for designs.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, entertain a motion.
I will move to approve the new GO spot. I had to say it, Rick.
I'll second.
Agenda item carries 5-2. Item 25 is, I pulled this just out of consistency. This is another federal grant I appreciate the additional resources for public safety. My concern is, we're also entertaining, an increase for cost of living for inflation purposes on this agenda. And somewhat ironically, we could argue that the overheating of this economy is directly an effect of all this federal spending. So I understand that we're a small fish in a very large pond, and $550,000 might not be a lot in the grand scheme of thing, but it all adds up, and the federal spending is out of control, and I simply don't want Gilbert to be a part of the problem. So I'll be voting on this one, but don't know if there's any other questions or somebody wants to entertain a motion. Oh.
I have one question for staff on this. Whether or not, what often happens with these grants is we get a one-time grant, and then we have to maintain whatever it is we get for the grant for the rest of our lives. And I had a question. Is there a significant amount of maintenance that's going to go into furthering this program after we've gotten the grant and spent the money for the items?
Mayor and council members, Anderson, the only one that I can see that would be an ongoing expense would be item D on the agenda for the vehicles, that once the initial cost, that would be absorbed into our fleet, and that would be an ongoing cost that we would add into our budget. Beyond that, everything from what I'm seeing is a one-time expense for this fiscal year. And if I can just add a point of clarification on your agenda packet, that item D, which is item, I believe, 4, it's in the agenda packet, it identifies it as a police vehicle, but on the agenda summary, it shows as fire. So I just want to make sure that's clear. It's actually PD.
Chief, is item B also a vehicle that would be added, absorbed into the fleet?
Yeah, those are the ones I'm speaking of.
Okay, B and D?
Yeah.
And I had one other question. Sometimes these federal grants come with other additional strings attached, some which are policy-oriented. I know under this administration, some of those things have shifted. Are there any other strings attached to the grant?
Not with these grants. There's no, what's the word I'm looking for, matching grants or any other requirements that come with this. These funds are through the UASI, so it's done through the Phoenix urban area. They allocate the money. This is our portion amongst all the valley agencies, and this is what our request of how to use the money that was allocated for us.
Thank you.
Chief, I don't know if you're the one who could answer this, or if there's anybody on staff who could explain what happens if Gilbert does not accept this $500,000 in change. Does it go back to the federal government to not be spent, and can it be applied towards our ridiculous national debt or annual deficit, or what happens with the money for jurisdictions that don't accept this?
Mayor and Councilmember September. It gets sent back to the federal government. In this case, my understanding is it would go back to the Phoenix UASI group. They would reallocate the money to the existing members. If for some reason no one could take it or didn't have a need for it, then it would go back to the Fed, and my assumption would be it would be reallocated somewhere else within the country.
I'll repeat my adage, Councilman September. No one drop believes they are the fault of the flood.
Mayor and Vice Mayor, one thing that I'd like to mention, and I want to commend the previous council for their oversight of how we accept federal funds. And I believe over time, one of the things that was made really clear, and we continue to do it within the town, is that this is one-time money spent on vehicles or other things that don't include long-term obligations for the town. So in the past, perhaps we would get 3 firefighters or 4 police officers and they would be paid for, salaries would be paid for a couple of years, and at that point we would have to absorb all those costs. And so I believe that, not discounting your concerns by any means, that when we look at these grants, they are one time and they're not adding to additional obligations for our community in the future.
To that point, Councilmember Tilkey, yes, in the hierarchy of bad, that is worse than this, in the hierarchy of bad.
And I would say that I think we've been extra careful to go to Councilmember September's question about strings attached. We've been extra careful under this administration to watch every grant to make sure that there are no unintended consequences or strings attached that we would not like to see here in Gilbert. It's been extra cautious over that. And to Councilmember Anderson's point, yes, there might be some follow-up maintenance for a couple of these because they're vehicles, but that would just be for the life of the vehicle. And those vehicles obviously have a timeout period where they will just be out of service eventually. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Please vote. Motion carries 5-2. If there's no objections, I'll take 32 and 33 and just voice a concern. I know when we got our initial allocation of CARES funds, there was a subcommittee process, and we kind of flushed out what the priorities were going to be. A good portion of that money was allocated for various business programs. My concern with this, and I know I got some information late on this, having maybe feedback from economic development as to maybe how that money that was initially allocated for businesses could be reallocated. The strategy was, setting up short, mid, and long-term strategies that were going to help the business community as kind of their needs shifted and changed and evolved over the pandemic. And I just say that these two items, are siphoning money from what that original purpose was. And my concern is, without maybe going back to the business community, seeking input for the chamber and some, other businesses in the town. I'm not sure how those needs have evolved, and maybe this is a perfectly good use for the CARES money, or maybe we should be reevaluating what maybe some of those needs in the community are, and would prefer to take a pause and do that before spending the money. I know it's easy as an organization to find lots of needs and lots of holes to plug this money into, but once it's spent, I would argue there might be some better ways to directly benefit the taxpayers, the businesses, and the citizens.
I would just add that with this reallocation, this is monies that has been available to the business community for over a year and has been underutilized. One of the reasons why I feel this is an appropriate use of these monies is because it is reducing the burden on the town of Gilbert and its employees as well, which will ultimately flow down to taxpayers, because if we don't pay for it this way, we're going to have to pay for it another way. And this is one solution that I think meets the overall intent of the CARES funds. So I would be supporting these items.
Is Dan Henderson here tonight?
I don't
think so.
Okay, I was going to see if he'd be willing to speak a little bit about any of the existing needs or ongoing needs from any more COVID-related impacts to our businesses. I know that the town of Gilbert put together an amazing program, that 3-tiered program with grants, with loans, and with ongoing continuing education and mentorship for our businesses. We win a lot of awards here in Gilbert. If we didn't win one for that, it would surprise me. It was an amazing program, and I still hear about it from our business community, about how it helped so many businesses here in Gilbert. But I was hoping he could maybe speak to that. I'm okay. I really support at least one of these because it's still a one-time fund that addressed the impacts. It still addresses the impacts of COVID and would help alleviate what looks like a looming 15% increase to our employees' health insurance premiums. And of course, the town, as being self-insured, we absorb about, what, I think 80 or 85% of the costs. But to be able to relieve that from our employees, I think is helpful. And it actually is part and parcel to another item that's coming up later on the agenda, because Gilbert is in a position right now, and just like many other cities and towns, and like many businesses, we're finding it hard to attract and retain talented, experienced people to deliver the services that we offer. And I think that this would go a long way in retaining the talented, experienced people that we do have.
Mayor Peterson, Councilmember September, I believe Dan Henderson is on Teams, if you have any questions for him.
Thank you, Chevelle. Vice Mayor, would you like to?
No, I think I received feedback from Dan.
Scott.
But my point to that was, I don't think we've hit a reset. Those strategies were contemplated at the very beginning of this, and there's, to my knowledge, we've never kind of gone back and done a reassessment to see if those needs have changed. And I'll use this item 32 as the perfect example. This isn't a unique position that the town finds itself in, and many businesses themselves are struggling with the increased costs of paying time, paying leave, rising premiums for healthcare because of all these pressures converging. So my point is I don't think we've reevaluated what those issues are in the business community, and prior to maybe absorbing those resources within the town, I would like the opportunity to maybe reevaluate how those needs have shifted.
Duly noted. Councilmember September, did you have a question for Dan Henderson?
Well, yeah, I was just curious if Dan wanted to speak a little bit about any more existing needs for the business community where we intended originally for these CARES Act dollars to be spent. Are there still outstanding needs where this money could be used?
Mayor, Councilmember September, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I appreciate the question. We are still continuing our technical assistance program under the program design with short, mid, and long-term support for the business community. The technical assistance component is that long-term element that is meant to provide business resiliency over the long term. It's still an active program that is benefiting the business community. The loans and the grant funds, the grant funds specifically were almost entirely expended. That was the short-term component. The midterm component was the low-interest loans. That was a program that did not receive as much interest from the business community as anticipated. And it's my understanding that these remaining program funds were coming out of that particular component, specifically the midterm business loans component. Councilmember September, I'm not sure if that specifically addresses your question, but that provides a brief overview of where we are with the program.
Thanks, Dan. So the program that's still active is the long-term program.
Mayor, council members, yes, that's correct. The current component that is still going is the long-term component, the technical assistance component.
Dan, can you remind us what that original amount? I believe we allocated specific dollar amounts to each one of those three phases. Can you remind us how much was allocated for that third long-term phase?
Yeah, that third long-term phase, Mayor and Councilmember September, was about $2 million.
And how much of that is still left in the fund?
Mayor and Councilmember September, I believe there's about 80,000 plus or minus remaining in that program.
And if I did the math right, by subtracting what we had left after we had allocated everything before this request, it left us with 5.6 million. After these requests, we would be left with 1.36 million. if his budget is $800,000, I think we can still cover that, and even perhaps have him take a look at other additional programs to see if we need to expand that long-term effort within the 1.36 remaining.
Well, and my point is when we set out that strategy, it was at a specific point in time, knowing, in my opinion, that we were going to reevaluate it because those needs have changed. I think, it's been over a year. What we thought was going to be, the needs of the community long-term are probably drastically different than what was originally contemplated when we were talking about supply chain issues. We're talking about inflation. We're talking about labor shortages. I mean, the entire game has changed as far as the business community. My point is, have we gone back to the chamber? Have we gone to some of those stakeholders and asked? We had a whole process for these funds. This is, outside of any of those original, even kind of other than maybe arguably, you can make an argument these fell into some of those basic categories. But we did a pretty deep dive into specific projects before we set out direction for these allocations. So that's just my 2 cents.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, I'm curious if kind of a reset for the business community. Were you anticipating looking at the $5.6 million that we currently had left in that fund, or would you be willing to look at the $1.36 million and see what programs we could do within that?
Well, I think it's kind of backward. So, we were doing the consistent surveys. We were coming back and doing, kind of needs assessments at different points in time. So maybe a less amount is necessary, but my point was the overall holistic approach we took was we looked at, what were the top priority projects, what was the best nexus for what these funds were supposed to be used for. All I'm saying is all these are new and kind of circumvented what I thought was a pretty good process. And now I'm not sure, why some things are percolating to the top rather than others, and maybe there is an argument to be made for other uses of the monies.
I think that these came forward from the financial retreat when staff was asked to look for one-time trigger point or money to address some of these issues, and I think perhaps they saw this as one-time money for a one-time issue. So I think that's why you're seeing it now. So if we're not comfortable with that, we need to kind of give direction. I think if you want to stop and reevaluate the business side of things and then come back, if we chose to do that, I think we still have these 2 issues that we need to address, and I don't know what the timing on that is, but I think we probably just need to give some direction if we're not comfortable with this particular one.
That would be my direction. Hit reset on the subcommittee.
I've got a question. It's probably a Nathan. It's probably a Nathan question.
He's closer. He's not in the back 40.
Let me just make sure. We're still on item 32, right?
32 and 33.
Together, combined.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening.
Hi, Nathan. So item 32 contemplates a possible 15% increase to our employees' health insurance premiums. When is that scheduled to manifest?
Councilmember September, members of council, that would take effect the first pay period in July. Our enrollment period runs up to the end of our fiscal year, and then our plan changes usually take effect at the start of the fiscal year.
Thanks, Nathan. So if we were to take another look at this and reset the subcommittee, would we be able to conceivably, I think we would have enough time to talk through this to see if this is something we could support later. I mean, I'm not even sure there's a need, honestly. The CARES Act money was to address an issue that was upon us, I feel like the issue's behind us now. I mean, I look at our tax receipts, I look at the income, and I don't see the issues that we had before. I'm not sure. Councilmember Yentes, or Vice Mayor Yentes, are you suggesting that we get the subcommittee back together to look at the concerns that the business community has now to see if we need to allocate additional funds to at least that third program?
Mayor, Councilmember September, I'd like to look at the remainder of the funds, and then we had kind of 3 different areas I think we were servicing. There was kind of the, like nonprofit, kind of crisis populations, and then we looked at the business community, and then we looked at, maybe some projects that fit the criteria for how we think that the money should have been spent for the town. So I think that whole process needs a little bit of a refresh.
Mayor, members of council, can I add one more important piece of information? Councilmember September, sorry, the effective date of the plan changes is based on, when those things take effect or when they occur, but we have a much smaller window for finalizing this for open enrollment. So our intention is to come back with recommended premium changes and pricing in the upcoming council meeting in 2 weeks so that we can stay ahead of our May open enrollment period. So just to clarify the timeline.
All right, so it's a little more critical than, you really can't wait till July to find out. We need to know, like, tonight.
And
ideally.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor and Mayor, one of the things I would like you to consider is that, and I'm not an expert in healthcare, so I just want that, and I have the pleasure of sitting on that board, but one of the things that drives the cost of your premiums is the last year's usage. And there are high usage due to COVID. And that's what some of these funds are used for, is to help us deal with the cost of COVID on our community and our organization. And so that's one of the reasons you're seeing an increase in those premiums.
Yeah, that point is well taken. I totally understand that. My point was I actually believe the business community is contending with the exact same issue.
For item number 33, could I get some staff input as to if this allocation is not funded with the CARES funds, how those funds might be procured or passed down into user fees?
Kelly, you were in the back 42. Thank you take your time.
Thanks, Mayor, Councilmember Koprowski. If we were not to use the CARES funds for the environmental services or the fleet project that's related, probably 2 options would be, one would be to use funding from another source. The second option is that we do keep our enterprise funds self-sufficient, and so it would need, we would have to have a rate increase in that area. They would not have enough funding likely to go through all of fiscal 23 and stay above minimum fund balance. So we would need direction to start that rate study immediately so that we could work on getting that into place before the end of next fiscal year.
Maybe this is a question for Kelly, or maybe it's a question for somebody else. I was a little bit confused on the other part of 32B that says use of CIP capital improvement project contingency funds. Was that because that's where the other CARES monies got reshuffled to and then it has to go back, and so it's just...
It is mostly because we don't have enough contingency already budgeted in one of the other pots. So the CIP contingency we can use anywhere that's needed in the town. We just have to identify the revenue source with it. So we would identify CARES as the revenue source with this, and then that would be the budget authority to be able to move it where it needs to be.
Gotcha. How much is in that capital contingency fund?
Every year we budget $100 million in that fund, and then we're able to use it where it's needed at the council's discretion. Because in Arizona, once we adopt the preliminary budget, we can't increase that at all. So we need to have some flexibility.
So theoretically, you could use $1 million out of that $100 million to shore up this enterprise fund, or $2 million out of that $100 million to shore up the health trust fund.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, the $100 million is for that particular contingency, does not have money in the bank to back it up. It is budgetary authority, expenditure authority. Whenever we use it, we have to list where that revenue source is coming from. Unlike general fund contingency, which does keep money in the bank, the CIP contingency does not have money associated with it until we make that connection and provide that recommendation to you.
Gotcha. Glad revenues are coming in stronger than anticipated.
No more questions. I think I have the information I need. Thank you.
Are there any questions or entertain a motion?
Is it a motion on one or both?
Councilmember Anderson just raised his hand. You would have to do them individually, 32 and 33.
It was my understanding from a briefing that I received from staff that this fell within the parameters of the CARES money that was allocated to the town of Gilbert. Now, if there's something different than that, I'd like to know. But whatever we're going to do, let's do it now, because I keep reading every day of communities that are being criticized for stonewalling and not using these funds when they're made available. So we need to use them and use them within the parameters, I think, of whatever the guidelines were. And if that necessitates having to sit down with the chamber and run it by them one last time, let's do it. But let's make sure that we do this in a timely way, because I know other communities are being criticized for not using these funds.
Vice Mayor, for item number 32, I don't feel like there's a time element here that's this is a time-sensitive issue, so I would move to approve item number 32.
Second.
Item carries 5-2. Is there a motion on agenda item 33?
Item number 33, one of the purposes of the CARES funds was to benefit residents. And the initial way that we did that was providing grants through the Parks and Recreation so that people could get discounted programs. I see this as a benefit to our residents, because if we pay for this $1 million for this major project for environmental services, we're going to reduce the rate increase for that enterprise fund for environmental services. So for that reason, I move to approve item number 33.
May I ask a question? Do we need a second first before I can ask a question?
I believe so. We have a motion and a first.
On the first one you're talking?
On item 33, we have a motion but not a second, but Councilmember Tilke would like to make a comment.
Oh, yeah. No, you can.
I can right now. I just want to know the process, because I believe that Vice Mayor's comments about going back and looking at the remaining funds, however this ends, is important, and I'd like to make sure that we have that direction and it's clear that we want to do that. Is that all you need from us, or does it need to be part of a motion?
Mayor, Councilmember Tilke, no, that's all we need.
Then I'd like to second that motion.
Motion carries 5-2. And I think that concludes our consent agenda.
That was a long
Thanks
one,
for hanging
Vice
in
Mayor.
there, everybody.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Great job running that. Thank you for all the discussion this evening. I appreciate everybody having some input on these issues that it really will affect our employees who are our residents, and really, when it comes right down to it, our residents with some of these projects. Next, we have our public hearing portion of the agenda. We have 3 liquor licenses. I'll open the public hearing. We have 3 liquor licenses: development agreement, zoning Z21-11, property acquisition, and another property acquisition for items 43 and 44. 45 has been requested to be continued to the, and they have that April 12th meeting. Do we need presentations, discussion on any of these items, or would somebody like to make a motion to approve? Or should we take the liquor licenses separate? Please let me know. I'm seeing shaking heads.
Move to approve.
Okay.
Mayor, if we could open and close.
I did. I opened the public hearing, asked the question,
And
close the
then
public hearing.
on 45, if we
I
could
asked
have
to
the motion to continue the date certain.
Yep, April 12th. I got the date correct. Yes, April 12th. Thank you. Okay, I closed the public hearing. We have a motion and a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember September, seconded by Councilmember Tilke. Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. We'll move on to our administrative items. We have already covered the boards and commissions items 46, 47, and 48, so we'll move on to item 49, council administration item, which is to consider approval of 5% inflationary adjustment for town employees. Would you like a presentation on this item? We have Dawn ready to do so.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thanks, Dawn, for heading right over to the podium. She was not in the back 40, so she was easily ready. Trying to. Are you waiting for your PowerPoint to load? Thank you.
All right, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm here to talk a little bit about recruitment and retention strategies and our recommendation for employees. So I want to start by talking a little bit about the challenges that we're facing in the market. Those challenges are for recruitment and retention, and really the world of work has changed. Economists are saying that we're experiencing several different trends at once. So the great resignation, the great promotion, the increased inflation, employees having the choice, the ability to move between organizations. Remote work is another thing that's changed expectations for employees, and so there's a lot going on. This slide just kind of goes over that a little bit. Low unemployment is something else that we're facing, and really just struggling a little bit, I think, with retention and with recruitment. So throughout this process, we have seen and heard from our peer organizations who have made some changes to their organizations just in reaction to what the world of work is doing. Some of those things have been CPI or market adjustments, and you see, the organizations who have already announced some of the things that they're doing. There's also been some hiring incentives, some bonuses, some extra time off as well. And then, some cities are also looking at some real specific department aspects and some, org-wide as well. On average, between the market adjustments and the annual adjustments, what they've been looking at that we're aware of is between the 6% and 10% range. So, of course, as we look at that, we always come back to what would make sense for Gilbert. So in doing that, we have to understand where we are, what's going on with us, and some things came up that we are aware are affecting us: turnover, some vacancies, recruitment challenges that we're having, burnout for our employees as well, are all things that are currently affecting us. So we'll go through just a couple of the items. So in terms of turnover, we are seeing an increase in turnover. And this graph shows the percentage of resignations in comparison to our employee counts. And as you see, even, we did add in the March data to show you that that is still continuously increasing. We also have the turnover in percentage based on quarter here, which kind of shows that you still see that 3.7% for quarter 3. We do not have the information for quarter 4 yet, but we have had a significant amount of turnover in Gilbert. Another challenge that we faced is vacancies. As you see from the vacancy rates, just for the last 3 months, we've seen those increase from 9.5% to 11% and now 11.5%. But that is overall townwide. If we look at it from specific departments, we are seeing some challenges, specifically, in environmental services is one where we are struggling with drivers and getting drivers to come, to stay. There's a lot of opportunity for drivers to go elsewhere in other positions and get paid more. So that is a challenge. And so we are facing some of those higher rates of vacancies in those areas. So with all of those things in mind, we did convene a cross-departmental team to really explore potential recommendations for how we can tackle some of these things. And those discussions really focused on what we could do now, what we could do in the near term, and then what in the long term we would look at for some changes that we could make or some things we could do differently. Some of those items are administrative in nature, and others really would require a policy change. So, just looking at those things in those 3 buckets just really helped us to kind of flesh that out some. There were some interrelated themes that we came across as we were having those conversations, and those things were just those things that we knew were impacting us. We were hearing them from the department specifically, and those were vacancy and recruitment changes and challenges, burnout struggles, employees not being able to use vacation, and then expanding competition. So when we're hiring folks, there's a row of requests for higher salaries. When people are leaving, they're leaving for those higher salaries. So lots of competition and lots of moving between organizations. Throughout this process, we have been, I think, trying to be reactive to some of those things by, taking some different approaches in some of the things that we've been doing. Benchmarking is one of the things that we do every 2 years for every role, every position in the town, but we have been increasing the frequency of that for those high-risk roles where we do see folks leaving more, exploring other vendors, and ensuring that we keep our data and salary comparisons up to date. We also, in recruitment, have been looking at how we can make that a faster process, utilizing things like Spark Hire to help us to go through that first round of interviews quicker, looking at how we can refresh our reputation out there by, what we say, what we do, throughout the process. In terms of retention, we're looking at stay interviews, and then communication on the pay for performance process to clarify that for employees and just, have more communication from that aspect. Obviously, there's no one size fit all. So as we went through these conversations and as we're looking at what we look to do, we explored different strategies for different teams. And again, the team did put together what it looks like for the now, the near, and the long term in terms of strategies. So as I get to the recommendations for now, what we're recommending is a 5% inflationary adjustment for town employees to take effect in April. And this would be separate from the annual pay for performance process. the regular reviews for the step adjustments for sworn. As you know, we wanted this to be a multifaceted process, so there were two other agenda items which kind of deal with this as well. The utilization of the $2 million of the CARES funds to decrease the impact to employees of their medical coverage increases, and then also the one-time increase of vacation rollover cap for those folks who, for the whole town, but really just in response to our employees not being able to take time off over the last year. In terms of near-term and long-term, we are exploring several things, referral coverage, training, and other potential incentives, and that would be one-time funding we would use for anything in that realm. And then also looking at enhancing training and communication avenues. A lot of what we heard, we went through 2 meetings without talking about, pay at all, which was really refreshing. I think communication and training and opportunities were things that we heard a lot. In terms of our focus, I think, we also learned that we need to continue to focus on and celebrate on what makes us great, and really what makes us great is our employees. And so that's why we're bringing this forward, because we really do believe that this is not only beneficial, but also is helpful considering the inflationary pressures that we are seeing everyone experience, and we're experiencing ourselves. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dawn. Any questions for Dawn? Vice Mayor?
I didn't see in our packet what the cost was.
So I might need help on the exact cost. What I will say is that what we're recommending, the 5% that we're recommending, is actually within our current operational budget funding. So we are not requesting any additional funding to make this happen. There is a small contingency of less than $25,000 that's at the budget director's ability, and that would be for the streets fund. Otherwise, it is within our ability.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, I also don't have the exact cost on the top of my head. What we do is we do budget pay increases in all of the funds each year. And so this would be attributed to the pay increase for fiscal year 22 and what we had typically done for pay for performance. And then in fiscal 23, we would be able to include the costs for pay for performance, only doing it earlier in the year instead of later in the year. So still one pay increase for employees in each of the years. This one is a little bit higher. We usually plan around 3 or 3.5% in the budget, but we have vacancy savings from what's happened earlier in the year that would allow us to be able to accommodate this in the current fiscal year.
So just to clarify, is this going to be a recommendation for the 2023 budget as well?
No, this would be a 5% across the board instead of what we typically would do with the money, which would be pay for performance. And then next fiscal year, the pay for performance, instead of being at the end of the year, would be at the beginning of the year. Financially, that's how it would work out.
I see.
Something Dawn said is really important to focus on. Our employees are everything. Our employees are the key to this community getting everything done that we get done on a daily basis. And I was really encouraged that when our employees heard that there was a subcommittee formed for recruitment and retention, I had employees coming to me with their own ideas, and I shared a lot of those ideas with Patrick. And I said to Patrick, I love that our employees are trying to find a way to help. I think that that speaks volumes for our culture here with the town of Gilbert. They don't want to have to leave. Some of them are seeing, they live down in Santan Valley because the housing is a little less expensive, but now they're paying $5 a gallon to drive to Gilbert every day. So as much as they try to live within their means, they're seeing huge differences in their everyday budgets, which like you said, Dawn, we are all seeing in our everyday budgets a huge difference in people that live on a, I'm going to point to Councilmember Tilke, a fixed income because she's retired, are definitely feeling that. But we have people that have just started with the town that are at a lower level for their pay scale, and they're going to be hit a lot harder than some of the people that have been here for quite some time. But we don't know everybody's story. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know what their issues are at home or what they're paying for. And if this is one way that we can show our employees what they mean to us and how we appreciate everything that they do on a daily basis, I am in favor of that. And I appreciate them more than they will ever know. And again, I appreciate that they're willing to reach out to me to have the conversations and to offer their suggestions. And I really do think that that speaks well for them and for all of us and for what we're doing here. So,
Mayor, if I may, the team that was brought together to talk about this was really an awesome team. We were very impressed with how open they were to share that, their ideas, their views, and then also solutions. And that team will continue on those longer term, near and longer term items to flesh those out and see what we can do. But definitely it was encouraging and it was very exciting to see, but it speaks to the culture here and just the openness and just how willing everyone is to pitch in.
And nobody just wants to complain about things, they want to try and help, and I think that's really great. Councilmember Anderson?
Dawn, was this the top on the list of the things that would be an incentive to keep employees here?
So, Mayor, Councilmember Anderson, it was not. I would say we did not necessarily rank things as in top, just more what we could do now, and then what took more, fleshing out and vetting for us to be able to work through. I will say, there are a lot of other cities who are doing similar things, and it is within this range. And so that was really part of the discussion that we had, as in, does this make sense for Gilbert? And we also want to make sure we remain competitive. And we believe that with other cities doing it, and these are the ones that we compare ourselves with, that this is also a really great thing for that competitiveness moving forward.
Are there other things that they're doing? I think you showed some, didn't you? Other things that other cities are doing that for incentives?
Yes, there are other things, hiring incentives and other things that folks are doing for those positions that they are finding hard to fill. So there are several cities out there doing that, as well as incentives for end of program. So examples of end of program incentives have to do with our lifeguards and that kind of thing for our summer programs. We do see some cities doing incentives at the end of the program to incentivize folks to stay through the program. So there's various things, the approaches that are being taken have been just depending on the circumstance or the issue that they're facing, and trying to figure out, like we are, what are those things that are going to get employees to stay. But staying competitive is one of those things that's going to get employees to stay. It also gives them appreciation that we know that they're working hard every day, which we all know that they are. But also for people who are looking at Gilbert, says that we value our employees. And so more people will come and apply to Gilbert. So we are seeing lower numbers of people in our recruiting for specific positions, and so all those things kind of together really help.
We just lost our transportation manager tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Tilke.
Mayor, thank you. Dawn, it's my understanding that this is an ongoing conversation to continue to hear from our employees about what is really important and what we do that they value within our culture and how we can enhance that. So this is that short-term ask at this point. We'll be seeing the additional adjustments when we talk about the budget for next year, it's my understanding, but perhaps there'll be other things you'll be sharing with us. Is that correct?
Correct.
Vice Mayor.
I'm a little disappointed only from the standpoint of, I know during our last retreat, there was some feedback as to, hopefully some of the recommendations that would be coming forward weren't going to be sort of kind of a blanket, but you had mentioned some departments where we're seeing specific acute issues. So I was hoping, I guess, to see maybe some more targeted solutions in those areas. I don't know whether this policy has addresses, those specific problems in those specific areas, or if we should be maybe looking at maybe a more strategic approach and making sure that we're really clear about what the problem is in the particular departments that are most affected. So I don't know that the people at the top are as impacted, as maybe some of the people who have to commute and are paying those gas prices. I know everything is going up, food, everything like that, but I don't know if there is any, consideration for, which employees, whether it's department driven or not, or paid driven or whatnot, where those breaks are. And I just thought maybe we would have a study session and there'd be kind of a menu of options. So I was a little bit surprised that this was maybe the first thing that we're voting on, but that's just a little bit of feedback, knowing that I know that it's still early on in the process and there's other considerations, but this is certainly something everybody's feeling right now.
Mayor, if I may. Vice Mayor, so we are looking at tackling those other areas and those real specific items. What we realized as we started to talk through what those things could be and how they could be implemented, we realized that they were a lot more in depth than we had initially thought. And so those items are still moving forward, and we still are looking at it from the targeted lens of figuring out what is going to help in those specific areas. This is only our initial now item, but we have several other items which I think will get to what you were hoping for in terms of looking at those specific items and saying what will work in these specific areas. It just needed more vetting than we had before we could bring this item, and we thought it would be great for us to get this item and then move forward and button up the rest of those as we move forward.
Yeah, and I think to that point, Dawn, I think it's because I think it's harder to do that because these are complex. You said, even economists are looking at this and going, wow, everything is colliding at once. So there is no easy solution to this. And I mean, I've got, friends who are managing businesses who are like, they can't find secretaries, they can't find, and it's recurring, and it's in every industry, and it's across the board. And so a lot of this is hard to grapple with and find what's going to be, and I don't think you guys are purporting this as a silver bullet, but going to be the thing that's going to best give us the bang for the buck and provide meaningful solutions, because I think the problems are much more complex than that. And so that's just my thought on it. Thank you.
Patrick, did you want to? Oh. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Dawn, how many employees does the town of Gilbert have?
Roughly 1,600. I don't have the exact number, but roughly 1,600.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Dawn? Thank you, Dawn. Thank you for your time. Would anyone like to make any final comments, or would somebody like to make a motion?
I have a final comment, Mayor.
Yes.
So just to frame this for people to help put some context around how few employees we have compared to other jurisdictions. Gilbert, as you just heard, has about 1,600 employees. We have 272,000 people. If you look at, I'll use Mesa as an example, although there are others. Mesa is 550,000 roughly. They have over 4,500 employees. So they have 3 times the employees for approximately twice as many residents as Gilbert. I think it speaks to our culture and how hard our employees do work. Where in Mesa, if you lose a driver, truck driver, maybe it's not as big of an issue because there's enough of them to backfill while you find a replacement and train a replacement. In Gilbert, we just don't have that luxury. And I know for a fact that we are actually light on truck drivers at the moment. So I just wanted to frame that for people who are watching and might be interested to know that Gilbert does things differently. We don't run operationally heavy with employees, and that's one of the reasons why we have the lowest cost with the highest level of services of any jurisdiction in really the Metro Phoenix area. I just wanted to communicate that. Thank you.
Great comment, Councilmember September. Any other final thoughts, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve item 49.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Kaprowski, seconded by Councilmember Toki. Please vote. Motion passes 5-2. Moving on to our next items on our agenda. Boards, commissions, and committees. Just double checking that I didn't miss anything. Boards, commissions, and committees. Any reports from council liaisons? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a couple of announcements. Our Gilbert Sister Cities Garden is on track, and thanks to Robert and his team. We are planning a grand opening for May 20th, and Mayor Billy Webb from Antrim Newton Abbey will be attending, as well as Council Member Cosgrove from Antrim Newton Abbey, and so we're very excited. More information will be coming out on that. And we've also seated our Community Engagement Task Force, and we are having our final meeting to kind of talk about how we work as a team. And beginning in May, we will start our education process on all of our different topics. And I mention that because it will be talking about where we are in Gilbert, you know, what's the real story out there, what do we know. We'll be identifying gaps and services, and it is open to the public. And so we're hoping that the public will come in and be educated with us as we go through that process, and then we'll go into the solution phase after that. But we're really excited to get up and running.
That's great. Thank you. Any other boards and commissions comments? No? Moving on to communications. Report from the town manager on current events.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I got hot off the press word that Gene Jensen is receiving the Engineer of the Year award from the AZ Water Association, which is the Arizona chapter of the American Water Works Association. The award was established in 2004 and was created to recognize exceptional engineers for their significant contributions to the water and wastewater industry, as well as to AZ Water and its associated agencies. She was nominated by her coworkers and selected by a committee of industry representatives from the association. So we're very grateful for Jean and all the great work she does for us. Well-deserved.
Very big congratulations to Jean. Not a surprise because she's amazing, but it's great to have that recognition, especially nominated by her peers.
Absolutely. And then secondly, I want to highlight, first and foremost, specifically, thank Cody Kottner from our Water Resources team, as well as the entire team of Lauren Hickson, Heather Turrentine, Gina D'Amato, and Jeff Lee. They recently hosted our 11th annual Water Festival in partnership with the Arizona Project WET in Gilbert Public Schools. Over 3 days, we reached 14 different schools and interacted with 39 teachers and over 1,000 fourth grade students. We had 45 community volunteers help us out with that, including Gilbert employees who brought Water Festival together for the day and taught these students. They learned about the water cycle, watersheds, groundwater, and how conservation technology affects the way we use water. And the Water Festival leaves a lasting impression on our fourth grade students and instills a deeper understanding of the role and importance of water in Arizona. So we sincerely appreciate them and all their efforts in that area, especially in these times that we're experiencing today. And then lastly, I want to express my gratitude to you on behalf of all 1,600 employees of the town of Gilbert, that they work very hard for this community, and I'm very appreciative of your support of us to continue to try to hold on to the very talented employees we have and attract those new team members that will help plug the gaps that we're currently experiencing, as well as manage the growth this community is seeing at almost a record pace. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Patrick. Any comments report from Council on Current Events? Then I guess that leaves me. I'm up next. I would like to congratulate Cactus Yards. They snagged the 3rd straight Outstanding Park of the Year award. Amazing that Cactus Yards has been recognized again for the 3rd time in a row, and they received a score of 10 for 10 in every single category that was looked at by the United States Specialty Sports Association. So congratulations to Parks and Recreation. We have Robert Carmona sitting right here in the 2nd row. Congratulations to you and your team, Robert. That's amazing. I would like to also thank the many staff members that made the State of the Town come together last week, including Chief Joe Bush, Assistant Chief Angstead, support from Chief Solberg, even though he was on vacation. We won't talk about that. Robert Carmona, Patrick Banger, Nikki McCarty, and Assistant Chief Badgett for bringing an ambulance out to the event so that people could see that ambulance. I want to thank the Vice Mayor, council members, Anderson, Kaprowski, September, and Tilke for attending and showing their support that day. It was my very first State of the Town as mayor. And then to all the staff members that attended in person, I thank you for being there. It was great to have friendly faces in the audience. And I wanted to thank the water team also, because I got some letters from some 6th graders at Playa del Rey Elementary School, and instead of sending them back letters, we took the water team out to talk to them about water usage and the drought they were concerned about, and the team was amazing, and they worked with, I think, 3 6th grade classrooms. The kids asked me a bunch of questions about being mayor and about the town of Gilbert, and my favorite was the little girl who put her arm up and said, "Most important question of the day." And I was like, "Oh, it's a 6th grader. You're not quite sure what you're going to get." She said, "Dogs or cats?" Most important question of the day. I said, "Both." Little boy in the front said, "That's lame. You can't say both." And I said, "But I have 2 dogs and I have 2 cats, so they're equal." So thanks, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. Adjourn this meeting. And happy birthday to Councilmember Kaprowski. I almost forgot. Happy birthday, Councilmember Kaprowski. We have snacks, too.